starting the meeting yet. Okay. All set, Tony?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Good to go? Ready. I'd like to call to order the 7 p.m. evening session of the Nelson County Board of Supervisors, November 9th, 2021. We're going to be starting out with public comments. I want to read to everyone the procedures for public comments, just so we know that we all know what we're doing. If you haven't signed up on the sign-in sheet, you will still get an opportunity to speak, but for everyone who did sign ahead of time, I appreciate that. I will open the public comment period and I'll call speakers from the sheet. When your name's called, please come to the podium, speak into the microphone, clearly state your name and address for the record. If you're speaking on behalf of a group, please identify the group you're representing, because then you can speak for 5 minutes instead of 3. Direct your comments to the board. Once the comment period is closed, no further comments on that will be taken. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Again, if you are speaking for a group that you identify, you'll have 5 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left. Okay. First, we have the general public comments. These are people that are not speaking on any of the public hearing, any of the public hearing comment sessions. Okay, so we'll start with Barbara Larson.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Larson. My husband and I reside at 477 Stagebridge Road in Livingston. First, thank you for your service to Nelson County. You play a vital role in Nelson County's future, and I appreciate your judgment and deliberation regarding important land use issues. I'm here to express my concern about the plan submitted by Rockfish Ranch Corporation. While our property is not directly adjacent to the proposed development, we're concerned about what this development and future similar developments, if Rockfish Ranch is allowed to proceed, will mean for the rural character of Nelson County. The land is zoned A1 agricultural. The site plan submitted is the same plan that was first submitted under a special use permit and later withdrawn by Rockfish Ranch. Then the proposed farm winery was labeled as a wedding venue. This appears to be a backdoor approach to the same development originally proposed by Rockfish Ranch, but without the requirement for public comment under a special use permit. Last month, several of us attended a meeting with Mr. Wilburn of Rockfish Ranch regarding their plans. We appreciated his time, but he was relatively vague, other than that the developers intended to start small, but eventually fully develop the property. The county's comprehensive plan states that, quote, maintaining the rural character and ensuring the protection of current and future agricultural and forestal land are essential to preserving the heritage and unique character of Nelson County. We couldn't agree more. Vacation homes are not agricultural. We're not anti-growth. We know that Nelson County needs to attract more high-paying jobs and also offer more affordable housing for residents. This proposed development does neither. More low-paying hospitality jobs serving out-of-town guests is not the type of development we need here. If they must occur, they should be contained to the area zoned for commercial venues. We look forward to hearing more about the county's new comprehensive plan process. We trust there will be ample opportunity for public input as the plan is developed. We do not wish to see all of Nelson County become a bedroom community for Charlottesville and other large cities, and the preservation of agricultural land should be a priority within a revised plan. Just because Rockfish Ranch contends that it can develop the property by right doesn't make it right. This is not an appropriate development for agricultural land. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Philip Purvis.
I just want to talk about the cigarette tax. That's something we used to put.
There's a public hearing on the cigarette tax. I will put your name on that list. Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak? General public comments?
Yes, thank you. My name is Kim Peel. I'm the Director of Philanthropy for JABA, the Jefferson Area Board for Aging. I've seen all of you a number of times before. We like to come down to Nelson every once in a while to let you know, first of all, thank you for your support each year, and to let you know how we are spending those public dollars. I'll leave you all with a packet, but I thought I would just touch on a few key points from some of the survey. Each year we do a survey with our constituents, and I wanted to touch on some of the highlights of that. As you know, we run a lot of different programs with our information and assistance program, which we refer to now as our senior helpline. Our satisfaction, our constituents said that they had 98% satisfaction. We also have what we call options counseling. These are folks that are kind of like caseworkers and help people through difficult situations. And we, in our survey, 99% said that they would refer somebody else to our services. So we're pretty proud of that. I won't go through each of our programs and just touch on some of the highlights. You may know that we also operate a program called Wheels for Seniors each year, senior cool care that provides air conditioners and fans for folks, and then emergency services, which our options counselors help people with emergency expenses, whether it's utility bills, transportation, adaptive equipment, eyeglasses, you name it, it's come across their desk. This is the time of year you may have heard about our insurance counseling program for Medicare recipients. Right now it's open enrollment period through December 7th for Medicare Part D. That's a very important deadline date to remember because people can save a lot of money each year by checking their prescription, checking their provider to make sure that things haven't changed. So we encourage you, pass the word to your friends and neighbors to call our insurance office and have that checked out. We're also in open enrollment for ACA, the Affordable Care Act insurance counseling program. That ends in January 15th, but it's really important for folks to get in touch with us by the end of December if they want their coverage to start in January. So those are some key dates. One of the reasons I'm here today is to help spread the word. We also have a vibrant volunteer program. We have fish volunteers working with students in your district. Right now it's virtual mentoring that's happening, and we have high satisfaction rates on that as well. And we have our adult care centers, one located in Louisa, the other located at our Hillsdale location in Charlottesville. And we're pretty proud of these particular survey responses. We surveyed the families who bring their loved ones to our adult care centers. 50%, 50%, said that because of their attendance at the adult care center, that their loved one had an improvement in their wandering, which is one of those telltale signs of dementia. 50% again had an improvement in their sleep patterns. Again, this was reported by family members to our staff. 60% saw an improvement in agitation, and 80% saw an improvement of the mood of their loved one that attended the adult care center. So naturally, we're pretty proud of that, and we want to encourage you to spread the word for those folks that have need of our services. Please let them know that we are open. We're here to help them. Our community center here, also part of the survey results, is our community center, the Cecilia F. Center here in Livingston. high marks from them as well. So they love their meals. They love 100% enjoy coming to, reported that they enjoy coming to the center. 90% are loving the health and wellness aspects and activities, and 100% love the activities and the connection that the center brings to them. Cecilia Epps Community Center, they're back at their regular schedules. As you know, during COVID, we were closed, then open, then closed. Now we're open again, and the members are very much enjoying being back in contact. We continue to work with the folks over at the Walton Museum on a space to open up a center for our folks in Schuyler. So those are ongoing discussions as well. I should also mention that Blue Ridge Medical Center continues to be a really strong partner with JABA and continues to provide our chronic disease self-management programs. That's a long word for learning how to manage your, in their case, these are focused on diabetes management. And home delivered meals, as you can imagine, that was it's been a very popular program and continues to be during the pandemic. Please know that even during the times when the Cecilia Epps Center was closed, that we were able to offer home delivered meals to all of those folks and continue to do so. So that's been a real benefit. And finally, we have our At Home with JABA program. That's something brand new this year. We found the need, obviously, through all of this, that this is our virtual community senior center for folks that are still uneasy about coming back to a community center, a congregate center. For folks that are homebound, like those that are receiving our home delivered meals. So we've got a calendar that's just chock full of activities from, that they do on the phone or online. And we've got a lot of technical support that we can give folks to help them become acclimated. So with that in mind, I will just leave you all with our survey results. You can read them as you count sheep. And I'm open to any questions if you have them.
Notice you didn't mention anything about Rockfish's program.
I know that Danny Harris, who is our manager down at the Cecilia Epps Center, continues to work and be in contact with the folks down at Rockfish. I know that he's taken our activities down there on occasion. I can't tell you what's happened most recently. I didn't check with him before I came down, but I do know that
their attendance is about 60 or 70
a
week. Is probably one of the biggest ones in the county.
We would love to see them at Celia Epps, believe me.
They're very happy where they're at.
That's great. That's great. And if there's anything that we can do, or if you can hook us up with I know that Danny knows the folks down there, and he's taken some of our activities down there on occasion. So we are very happy to coordinate with them and it's great that they have a good space to go to and a good,
very active, yeah.
Good group. We're pleased with that. Thank you all. I appreciate the time. I hope I didn't over my 3 minutes. Probably did.
Yeah, you got 5, so there you go.
Y'all are very kind. Good to see you.
Thank you, Ms. Beagle. Does anyone else wish to speak during the public comment session? Okay, I will close the public comment session and open the first public hearing. The first public hearing is a rezoning for from A1 to SE1, Afton. And Dawn, please tell us about it.
This is a request to rezone property. It's split zone from R1 residential and A1 agriculture. It's another one of those areas up in Afton where the front portion of the property is zoned R1, the rest of it's zoned A1. They're requesting to rezone the SE1 Service Enterprise to allow the construction of 8 two-family dwellings and to conduct agricultural operations on the property. These are the Mountain View Apartments on Route 151. This is the presentation from the applicant, but here's the site. This is the southern entrance to Avon Road. So Avon comes out up here. There's Tambart. There's the site. It's in the North Election District. The property is 16.34 acres. It's owned by Rockfish Apartments LLC as Justin Ship. Like I said, it's split zoned R1 and A1. The majority of the parcel is A1. Zoning in the vicinity is A1 agricultural and R1 residential with some B1 business. Property is located along a commercial and service-oriented corridor. Applicants provided a narrative outlining the project proposal and compatibility with the comprehensive plan, as well as proffers which eliminate uses such as farm winery, farm brewery, and restaurants. The property currently contains 14 dwelling units that were previously approved and constructed, 2 duplexes, a 4-unit structure, and a 6-unit structure. They're requesting the SE1 zoning for 8 duplexes for a total of 16 new units. 2 family detached dwellings are by right use, and there are no density requirements. The applicant is also proposing to utilize the property for agricultural operations, which can be done by right in the A1 district, of course. Property is accessed by an existing entrance on Rockfish Valley Highway. They have adequate site distance, but will be required to modify the existing entrance to satisfy current commercial entrance requirements. The property is proposed to be served by private water and septic systems. These are required to be designed by an engineer, likely Public Water Works well approved and approved by the health department. The proffers submitted are with your packet. There were no speakers at the public hearing at the Planning Commission meeting, which was October 27th. We did receive an email today that I gave to you before the meeting began. That was the only comment we received. At their meeting, the Planning Commission first voted 3-3 to table the vote until the next meeting when revised proffers could be submitted. Planning Commission then voted 3-3 to recommend approval of the application with the proffers as submitted. The applicant then made a verbal proffer to the Planning Commission to remove Category 2 events from the list of by right uses. The PC ultimately voted 5-1 to recommend approval of the rezoning application with the proffers, including the verbal one that I referenced. If the rezoning request is ultimately approved, the applicant will be required to resubmit a major site plan back to the Planning Commission for review because the development contains 3 or more dwelling units on one lot. If you have any questions for me, of course I'm available, and the applicant also has a presentation too.
Thank you. We may call you back. Mr. Shrimp, do you have a presentation?
Yes, I do. Sure. Thank you all. My name is Justin Shimp. I am the managing member of the owner of this, the Rockfish Apartments LLC. Of course, the president of Shimp Engineering, prepared the plan. My wife is the operator, Olivia, operates the apartments on a day-to-day basis. So, we face all tenants, etc. They all come to our house to drop off rent. So it's a very, very close to our house. You've seen the location where it is. I have the slides and things to give you a little more context. For those not familiar, let's see. I live right here. So in the middle of this is right around the corner from our house. And we purchased it in 2017 and have been operating it since. And what we have learned in that time is there's a tremendous shortage of rental housing in this community. Some details on that I'll share. But what also we know about this, because I live there, is this is sort of a service district. Right? Immediately within walking distance of my house is the gas station, doctor's office. Down Avon, you have another auto repair place, another service, gas station. Adjacent to our property is a little used car dealership. So this particular section of 151 has some local service businesses on it already. And reviewing that, the ordinance and what the options were for this, that will lead us to the service enterprise zone, which allows both the residential and agricultural operations, whereas if you go to some other residential zone, you could not have the agricultural operations, which we want to maintain. These are the existing apartments, or if you haven't seen them. There's a 4-unit building that you see as you drive past, that's top left. Behind that, you can't really see from the road, is a 6-unit building. Then up on the hill, there's 2 duplexes that look very similar in construction. That makes up the 14 units in total right right now. The pictures here are basically from the parking lot, and I have a map I'll show you, looking across the field, the other side of the creek, where the new units would be. So those are these, generally this zone over here, which is behind little Liberty Smith car sales, is kind of down here, and you go back up behind there, and it's a small, good sized field here, suitable for development. Here's the plan. So again, these are the existing units, 4 units, 6 units, duplex. The 14 units occupy something around 4.5, 5 acres of land. We have 16 in total. So we have the adequate space to support these 16 additional units, the 8 buildings of 2 units apiece. And most likely would be a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units. And most likely would be 1 level. That's something we found that's really needed in this community. We want to reserve the middle section for agricultural operations. Plan at the moment to do a Christmas tree farm there and have that in between tying some other stuff we were working on in the neighborhood. So that would be production of that. And we'll leave a little small pond there we would leave here for the tenants to use.
I'm sorry, what was your Christmas tree farm gonna be?
It is zone.
In the back?
Yeah, all the way in the back, and actually all the way to the front too. The units would be, basically, here's the entrance. You would come in, across, and back. This is relative to the back of the property. And then ideally you'd have the Christmas tree. This is good land for it here, and down this slope between the apartments that sit kind of high and the creek there.
Okay.
Some example of the housing types that we'd be looking at, I think particularly the one on this lower left is probably a good example right there. Potentially something like this in the upper left where you have 1 bedroom downstairs, 1 bedroom upstairs. That's a very useful product for folks. Again, we know from experience there now for 4 years, a lot of folks who are older, who shouldn't be going up and downstairs. And we don't, right now, all of our units have stairs, bedrooms, upstairs, kitchen down, bathroom upstairs. So you have to go up and downstairs every time you go to use the bathroom. So I think this will be a much better product for many of our tenants. As I'm sure you've heard, and if you know people in the community with rental housing, there's a tremendous shortage of rental housing. And it affects people, particularly those who are looking for more affordable units. But this is the recent study from the Thomas Jefferson Planning District, which shows that in this community, there are 170 severely cost-burdened, 250 cost-burdened individuals. Severely cost-burdened folks, those who pay over half of their income in rent. So that is a struggle for those folks. And that is largely because there simply is nothing available and the prices are high. And so we hope this is not new. There's 438 units that fall into either substandard, houses are not in that condition, cost burdened or severely cost burdened. And so we need more projects like this to help alleviate some of those pressures. A couple little things I've added here. I don't know how well you can read these, but we did a search earlier today, just like apartments in Nelson County. And in apartments.com, there were none. On Zillow, there were none. And on Craigslist, there was 1. So there is essentially nothing available to folks, and that's why this is such an important project to get done, because there's a lot of folks who are struggling for housing. Another interesting statistic, this is from the Weldon Cooper Center, and they break the census data down further. There's an interesting statistic that the people in Nelson County, 1,492 at the top there, live and work in the county. And 1,473 commute into the county to work. And if you talk to anyone who owns wineries, breweries, and other service businesses, their employees live in Amherst, Waynesboro, all the place, because there's not available housing for them in Nelson. So when you see that traffic on Saturday, yes, it's the tourists coming in, but also all the people who come to work at those establishments coming in and providing housing in the community close where they are with a couple things. One, it gives them less commuting to do, to improve the quality of their lives, allows them to actually live in the place they work. So these are all important reasons why this kind of project in the neighborhood is important. And lastly, I'll state that in all my experience working with this over a number of years, what I found is when you exclude the sort of housing type. It simply pushes out people with lower income, and they're forced to go elsewhere. People with money can come in the neighborhood. And this is a beautiful neighborhood. I live in. I live there. I'm not going anywhere. But the reality is that a lot of people cannot afford to live around the area. And this project, I think, is a step into some equity in that, and that we have an opportunity for people to spend their time here, work here, have family here, to move in the community, be part of the community. So that's the goal of this project. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Do we want to hold questions till after the public hearing, or do you have questions now?
Usually we ask him after anyway.
Yeah, so we will call you back. Thank you, Mr. Shane. I will open the public hearing on the rezoning from A1R1 to SE1. Public hearing is opened. First person on my list is Harry Baum.
Very long, that was under Kenmore Drive, Afton. All right, is that better?
Yeah, better.
My question is, there's apartments already and duplexes already on the property, it's already zoned. He could add additional duplexes with the present zoning. Why do we need to change the zoning for the addition of more duplexes that already has duplexes on the property? So, but that's, unless that's the stated purpose, is to add more duplexes. So there would be no reason to change the zoning. There must be some other issue that we're going to see popping up in the future that is a total change from what this proposal is. So I'm not sure why you would need to change the zoning. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Ann Landry.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So first of all, I believe.
Please give your name and address.
Oh, no, my name is Ann Landry, and I've already cleared it with Steve that I'm not giving an address. You're filming, not doing it. But to get to the point, and no one else has given their address. There are two sets of apartments that Justin failed to mention. Off the top of my head, I know of two, Lodabar Estates and Wintergreen, and above the Wintergreen Real Estate Office. So apartments do exist. That's number one. Number two, these Mountain View apartments, rezoning request number 437, A1R1 to SE1. SE is Service Enterprise, which opens the door for business. In the planning and zoning meeting, Justin Schimpf proffered a few things that he wouldn't do. This leaves way too many items available or businesses available that he could do because he didn't proffer any of them away, such as a boarding house, offices, summer and day camp, farmer's market, way more. The list is unbelievable. So let's assume he does build apartments, as he says, but not as he proffered. There are numerous accidents on 151. Just this Saturday, there was a bad one that tied it up for over 4 hours. So assuming that there are going to be as many apartments as he says, that will be 10 trips per day per household on this development, which would add 160 more vehicles traveling in and out and onto 151, already a ridiculous accident-prone area. Why are we approving a super dense development along 151 corridor when we have so many failing drain systems, particularly in that area? And also it's an accident-prone area. Why should we risk the health and welfare of existing residents there and actually all over Nelson, and he wanted us to use 151. The new drain designs are proven not to work. How is this good for families? What he is proposing, he already can do by right. So, and it's grandfathered in. Why is he asking for rezoning? Could it be that new construction must meet all codes? We already have a non-conforming multi-family dwelling on that land, and why were we going to compound it more in the future? The existing multifamily dwelling is already non-conforming. You can't add to the existing non-conforming without making it correct. Maybe doesn't want to do that. I feel this should be delayed until more research is done on this project for the best interest of the Afton residents and their family, and really for all of Nelson. Residents deserve a chance to hear more about this rezoning. This was all brought up during a very, very busy election time, and I only know from social media today that most Afton residents really don't know about this. They're up in arms, and I believe a few of them have shown up, but I think they're pretty shy and may not get up and speak. I hope they do. But the rezoning should be deferred out of respect for Afton residents. What is the hurry? Justin Schimpf already has a development on 151 in Avon that should be condemned. So if he can't finish that and it's in the shape it's in, why in the world would you let him do more? This rezoning needs many more proffers.
Your time is up. Could you please wrap it up?
Yes, it needs
Thank you.
more proffers, it needs review, and it should be delayed, if not turned down. Thank you.
Thank you. That's everyone that I have on the list. Does anyone else wish to speak?
My name is Heidi Cochran. I live in Glass Hollow in Afton, Virginia. I am concerned about what is not proffered out. So I have to agree with this gentleman over here, is that if he wants to do the apartments, I understand that. But if we get any more of this commercial enterprise going in down there, which opens up a door without being proffered out, then the traffic we have on 151, we're all well aware of a lot of items that Nelson has at the Rockridge area. And I, for one, have been there 45 years and not thrilled with the way it's being developed over there. And there seems to be no control. And I really don't want to wait till I wish I had said something. So I'd like to see a little bit more input on the profiting out, because I'm just concerned what it can turn into. And I really don't want to wish I had said something. Don't know if it'll stop it, but he can do what he can because it's already grandfathered in. That's one thing. But to open the door for more unknown to take place would really be concerning. So to be able to, go ahead and get a little bit more specific, not even to zone it to that, but I think that's a consideration need to be taken for the people that are in that community there. I for one. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I will then close the public hearing. And Dylan, can we get you back? Do we have any questions for Ms. Bishop?
Yeah, the first person who spoke said that you could do this without changing zoning. Is that true?
It is not. We issued a zoning determination in December last year for the property, trying to determine how many could be additionally placed on property. So we got together with the county attorney, did some math with the current ordinance to try and assess the current conditions. I've got no additional units may be constructed on the parcel as presently configured. They would have been able to subdivide about 5 acres off that could support additional dwellings on that, but as presently configured, could not put any additional dwellings.
Are there, since there's discussion about possibly breaking this into two different parcels. How would that, because that was some discussion that we had during the planning commission, how would that affect what can go on the two properties? Does it allow any more extensive density or other requirements that?
There's no density requirement in SC1, it's just the minimum
Limit.
lot size is 40,000 square feet. So the whole property is rezoned and then subsequently subdivided. The rezoning and the proffers would follow with both parcels, any additional parcels that are subdivided off. They'd also have to meet the subdivision ordinance, of course, so that's road frontage requirements, that's 125 feet of road frontage, drain fields.
Do we have sufficient road frontage on this?
There's not enough information to determine right now. We haven't had any subdivision plat submitted for review.
Any questions for Ms. Bishop?
Yes, what is your road frontage on 151?
I believe it's around 290 feet.
290. And would you use the same entrance?
Yes, we'd have to widen it.
Right, but
Yes.
you'd come off that and,
That's correct.
okay.
If additional commercial uses are proposed in the future, of course, they would go through their own review. VDOT would have to review the entrance again, health department.
But you're saying he would need to rezone it to A1?
He's requesting to rezone the SE, service enterprise.
All right, if he zoned the whole lot to A1, would that allow him to do what he wants to do
No,
about the housing?
no.
What would be allowable under A1?
With, let's see. 9 acres are necessary to support the 3 structures that are in the A1 already. So the 2 duplexes and the 6-unit structure. No additional units
That
could be
doesn't
on that.
leave you a whole
correct?
lot.
The A1, the R1 portion, sorry, there's a lot of math in here. The R1 portion is 2.178 acres, so if they rezone the whole parcel to A1, they could put 1 more duplex on it.
Any more questions for Ms. Bishop? If not, I'd like to get Mr. Shemp up. I got a question. Thank you. So you mentioned people that are cost burdened and low income housing. Is anything in this offered that would be beneficial to low income housing or people that are particularly cost burdened? What's the range that you're looking at here?
Right, well, so there's no like, say, there's no program in Nelson County for like affordable housing. So if I do a project now, I'm required to have a certain percentage affordable housing. Maybe we'll have that one day, what we do. But what I'll do for this project, almost certainly, is I'll use the Virginia housing funding options. And so what we do is that it really, is in a rural area like this, it's the way you have to do it, make it financially feasible. And what that does is half the units we rented to people making 50% area heat income. So basically that's about 46,000. Similar to our current crowd, basically. And so basically half the units will be set as more affordable, half of them to be market rate higher. They'll probably still be around that, $1,000, $1,100 a month range, the affordable ones. But that's still a pretty good, where it's out there for folks, that's a pretty good option. These are also brand new, there's far less, your electric bills, way less, other things add up to your benefit in your new housing unit versus if you're in something 30 years old, and you have a $300 a month electric bill versus a $75 electric bill. So it's big savings there for folks.
Any questions for Mr. Shem?
And the SE1 could be road frontage. Is that what SE1 is? Right on 51?
It'd be the whole parcel.
Well, it says it's zone. Okay, going to SE1. All right, so you got the residential gonna be up front, the agriculture in the back. The way it is now.
Correct. Right now, it's as many houses, my own house included, the first 200 feet is R1, the back of it is A1, yeah. That's right.
So if the whole parcel was zoned to agriculture, it still wouldn't allow you to do what you want to do.
Yeah, that's the problem. And in fact, this is the only zoning district that we can figure out that allow what we want to do.
Yeah. And I don't think there's any question the need is there. You plan on doing anything besides the 8 two-family dwellings?
Not for the foreseeable future. There is, as has been said, there are some commercial uses allowed. Now, we proffered out, it was discussed at great length at the planning commission meeting. I'll keep it short, but we proffered out basically anything that was not a community use, right? So no breweries, no wineries, no big events. Not my interest whatsoever. There's a lot of that in my neighborhood already, and that's fine, but I'm not trying to add to it, honestly. And it would be disruptive to people who already live there. So what's allowed is an office, a veterinarian's office, I think, none of those businesses that I have any intention of being in. That said, if somebody came and said, I'd like to put a little vet's office there, I don't think that's the worst
Oh,
idea.
what?
A veterinarian's office. I don't think it's the worst idea in the world either. So that was my focus, was about trying to do things that people in the neighborhood would benefit from on a very small scale. We're not allowed to have any retail, no restaurants, nothing like that. Just those sort of service businesses.
Dylan,
All retail is profit out?
It is.
could he put in what he's talking about in the zoning, in the A1? A veterinarian office, or,
Well,
In the A1,
yeah,
that is agriculture based, but.
is agriculture use, it should be allowed
no,
by
it would
right.
be, it depends, if it's a home occupation, someone lives there and they're doing it on the property, it's a little different. If it's explicitly a veterinarian's
We have an
office, no, it would be a special use permit.
Sounds like we are our own problem then.
So what?
Exactly.
Hey, Dylan, under the, in the packet, we have Article 8B, Service Enterprise District, SE1, Statement of Intent, and then it goes on to list all of these things. Some of them are marked out, banks, restaurants, kennels, driving range, farm winery, farm brewery. Then you get down to page 3. What are those things on page 3? Because if I'm looking at it, right, it looks like there could be a hotel, motel, Holiday Inn, an amusement park, a blacksmith shop, a convenience store, a campground, an outdoor entertainment venue. I mean, what are those things on page 3?
Dylan, you want me to answer that?
Yes. You talked about the highlighted copy, right?
Well, the highlighted copy of things that are marked off, and then that's page 2. Then on page 3, it's all this other stuff listed. And I'm just curious, if we marked off some stuff on page 2, why is all this other stuff left on? I'm just curious.
Those are the uses allowed by special use permit. So any of those.
So they would have to come back.
Come back to you.
For approval. Okay,
Correct,
I
yeah.
got
So,
you. Okay.
somebody-
So it's not like it's opening a door for you to put in a campground or an open entertainment venue. That would still be expected. Gotcha. Okay, that's what I was trying to figure
The
out.
other thing, David, it's limited to the size of the parcel.
Right.
There's not a whole lot more you could do with your parcel.
And, I think one thing to keep in mind as is with this, as he develops this is 8 units, he's gonna have a sizable drain field. So he's gonna be limited to uses even around that to a large extent. So, That would be, I don't
By
think
the
that would.
time he gets that drain field in, it's not
There
been
could be nothing
planned, he's
left.
not using.
Yeah. So I think that
That's
is,
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
The land is sort of self-limiting in that regard.
Have
yeah.
you done the testing as far as,
We did a preliminary soil test, and I've got several drain field areas. I mean, we'll have to use some alternative to get to the
Yeah.
number we have here, basically.
And with alternative, that's a requirement of 100% reserve. So take whatever that is. And
so is that gonna be large drain fields, not just individual? It's gonna be,
It'll probably be some collection of like 4 medium-sized drain fields, so the permits work.
Yeah.
But yes, there'll be multiple drain fields and multiple
now
permits.
how many is on the other parcel right now?
Each 2-unit shared drain field. So there are 7 drain fields right now.
The big building, each one separate.
Yeah, each 2 units. So the 6-unit building has 3 drain fields. And they're generally all out in the slope between the parking area and where I have the agricultural operations.
so he's not gonna have much room to do anything beyond once he gets all those in.
Again, is the drain fields toward 151 or behind the buildings?
The current drain fields are right in, this zone right here.
Yeah.
If you've been ever back, there's a little fence along here, kind of separates the cow field from the apartments. It's in that zone. There's also this one right over here, and there's one kind of over in this zone here. And the new ones will basically be, I have to go up on this hill up here, and some here, and there'll probably be some on a little ridge right in here, and maybe one back in there. So there's three spots I can go to, but it's not, again, the soil sort of limit what we can do. Even like profit out a restaurant, but you couldn't really do that with the unit residential because it's not enough septic area for it.
Right.
Would you be willing to proffer back to exactly what you want to do? Because you just admitted, I don't think it's with room to do anything other than that. So I don't understand why you wouldn't do it. Because the drain field, if you put in anything else, the drain field is gonna take to do that. You've probably already been and used it up, or you can be way back somewhere.
Yeah, go ahead, yes, sir.
I was just gonna add that, the VDOT, so to answer your question, yes, you could go back and proffer, it would start back at the planning commission cycle again. But to tie it together, things like VDOT approval and health department approval, we're absolutely making sure that those things are met, but we have no oversight of them. All those approvals go through their offices. So what we're looking at is the land use, whether or not the zoning district is appropriate for this specific property. So in the future, 20, 30 years from now, when these all, potentially are gone, or even further in the future, not to say zoning's not gonna change again before then, but are those appropriate uses for this area? Is this the right zoning district? So to proffer out some of all the uses except the residential ones.
Yeah, but I don't know where you would go in and build buildings and things and then go in and tear them down for something else.
It's long-range planning. That's fine, so you can add.
That's, yeah. I don't see that as a worry.
Yeah, well, there are a few of the small, like the veterinarian's office, little office that I feel like they can forget the discussion of this right here, but from a broader sense, I think those uses are appropriate in the neighborhood. So proffers are voluntary, supposed to be restricting things that are particularly sort of impactful and not fitting in. At least in my perspective, as I had submitted it, what we proffered out are things that are wineries, breweries, big events, because there's enough of that. But,
Yeah.
to me, if somebody came to me and said, look, I'd really like to start a little vet clinic here, I like to be say, yeah, I may have to, do an expensive drain field, or I may have to, I may have to convert one of my units into like a triplex and make the drain field smaller, reduce my residential density. I could do those sort of things. I don't want to foreclose on that because I feel like it's a valuable community need. And I hate to just close that out because I do think down the road, maybe 10 or 20 years, someone wants to do that. I want to say, oh yeah, that's a great idea. you'd be great for the community. So that's why I kept those in there. So I proffered it, I do feel that we've excluded things that are impactful, but left things that are appropriate.
Okay, I think that's all the questions we have. Okay,
And Dylan, what suggestions you have to be able to allow this, but yet do it in a different configuration than going to the SC1? I mean, is SC1 the only thing he can, that's what the only thing he can do and to have the apartments?
Yes, to achieve the
Okay.
density he's looking for, yes.
Okay. Is there a way to do what he wants to do and fit it in the SC1? Hollering it does.
I was to say, that's why we're doing that
That's what we
C1.
do.
So that's exactly it.
If there's more information that you're looking for, just please, let us know.
Well, I think, I don't have a problem with the location. I mean, it's already there and, the way the land lays and stuff, it's a decent piece of land.
I'd just like to chime in, and I want to say that I think that SE1 is an appropriate zoning for this property and for what the applicant intends to do. I voted in favor of it at the planning commission level, and certainly would like to see more housing, which I think is important. I think this is a good location for it. I think that the application is thoughtful, and I defer to Mr. Harvey, being in his district, about questions and reservations he may have. But from my standpoint,
Would you like me to read the statement of intent for the district and show the
Yeah.
zoning map? So this district is designed to allow limited service-oriented commercial uses, not in conflict with the low-density appearance and quiet rural atmosphere characterized and promoted within agricultural and residential districts. The zone shall be characterized by significant setback and yard requirements, limited signage, and by uses balancing the area's need for service-oriented industry with adjoining residential and agricultural uses. It's anticipated that the zone shall consist of mixed agricultural, residential, and service-oriented commercial uses and an overall atmosphere maintaining a low-density appearance and rural quality of life.
The setback is still the 50 feet? Because it says some additional,
Well, I did find that interesting today. For residential buildings, it's only 35 feet from the right of way.
From the road?
Mhm.
Okay. But I mean, that's nowhere near 151. It's hundreds of feet away from
what
there.
is your setback now, Justin? I'd say it's pretty good.
150.
At least.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
You're way back.
All the new units need to be further back, because the road noise is there. I don't want to build anyone's house close to that road.
Yeah. Really don't have any problem with the housing part of it. It's just the other that you want to add to it. Because, I mean, it would just extend what you already got. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what's there now, and this is just an extension of that.
I mean, another way we can look at it is half of it's zoned agriculture. And so a lot of those rights that this SC1 has would be allowed in that already. For example, the farm, brewery, farm winery, et cetera.
But if you went to agriculture,
Then he wouldn't be able to get those.
that's what I'm saying.
But the thing is with him doing this and proffering out a large portion of those, it allows for those apartments to happen. And it's limiting the use even if it
But it
was.
also allows something else up front that's gonna be on the road.
Okay.
So I don't think he would go in there and put his residential up front and go to the back and put something else, of course, I don't know.
I mean, he also had that. Is that Blue Line Creek?
Blue lines are creeks, yes. So there's the property.
Yeah.
Here. The yellow is R1 residential, anything not colored is A1 agricultural, the red is B1 business. Gray is industrial.
So my thinking is if you look at it from the SE side with the volunteered proffers, it's gonna be more restrictive than it just staying as agriculture, if that makes sense.
It just wouldn't allow the density.
Right, agriculture wouldn't, by him doing this volunteering proffer, so in the event it just stayed agriculture, he wouldn't be able to get apartments. However, he could do a lot of those strict things that we're talking about.
Well, you restricted pretty much by that R1 zoning.
That's
up front.
true, yeah.
So it's,
I don't know. What is the setback for SE1? You said it's 35 feet, or you said that was R1?
Actually, it's 25 feet from the right of way.
Okay.
35 is for a corner.
Yeah, but I don't see that happening there.
Now, commercial buildings are 75 feet from the right of way.
that's gonna pretty much prevent anything commercial being up front. Because that's gonna push everything else back so far.
To see what I do all day.
Alright.
Now, this is not completely accurate. It says about 100 feet from 151 here.
That's the existing building down there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's just one corner of it.
Here's the creek pond. The units are proposed back here.
And the way it's zoned now, he could go in and put a rockfish ranch to that backside if he wanted to,
Correct.
right?
No,
Not
no.
as much acreage,
So same issue, right? The
Yeah,
density thing.
right, yeah.
number of buildings
Yes.
on 16 acres.
Mhm.
Yeah, but he could do a farm brewery.
Yes.
See, he could do a farm brewery, he could do a farm winery, and he could have a fairly substantial large number of people. By us taking it to SE1, he's already volunteered those proffers away. Now, if we chose to do nothing, he leaves it as this, he could go, I mean, and this is the unrealistic, because he wouldn't plan on doing this probably, but those things would still exist there. So SE1 and with those proffers, is a more strict option. And
In some ways.
well, I mean, so your concern is the potential for something going up there right in the front on 151.
Well, no, I don't have that concern. It's just that See, he could put the houses up there now, and then, of course, he couldn't put the
Yeah.
correct amount on the agricultural land. I don't think I'd have any problem if he went to just strictly A1.
Then he
But
couldn't
he
put
could
the units on it.
units on it.
Huh?
He
Then he
can't.
couldn't put the units on it.
The
That's
SE
why.
one. The
SE one
yeah.
is what you meant, SE one.
It's-
Okay, and then profit away the other things. Yeah,
It is a voluntary proffer system.
oh, I
but-
realize that.
But the legislation loosened up in recent years, so it can be more of a conversation if that is the primary concern of the board. You can say, here's what I would like to see, let's table this, or it's at your pleasure.
Do we want to have more time on this, or do we want to make a motion?
Well, I would like to have more time to get allow what he wants to do, but not, where the opposition's coming from.
So,
Because I like the site. I think, there's nothing wrong with the site.
so specifically, I'm just trying to find out, on this SE1, what are you wanting him to volunteer away?
The one that's titled draft proffer statement, this is the one that lists all the uses that would remain by right.
This is the first page.
Not the highlighted copy, that was,
So not this highlighted one,
no,
this one.
yes, that one.
So the only things that he wants by right, single-family detached dwellings, two-family, boarding house, vacation house, bed and breakfast, a church graveyard, a library, a school.
You can read all.
No, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yes.
I just feel if he's gonna do his residential like he wants to do, he's pretty much gonna restrict himself from everything else. Is that not true or not?
That's what you would like to see?
Is that true that if he does this residential he's looking at, he's probably limited on what he could do else on there?
I am not qualified to answer that question, but based off of what I know, that's probably true.
Well,
And my little bit of experience.
if you're not certified to answer that question,
If the property can support other uses,
All these
well, that's
things
why we
are-
rely on VDOT and Health
Alright.
Department. If they came to us and said, hey, I want to put the vet's office here, we'd have them do a site plan, submit that to VDOT, Health Department, and as long as they are okay with that, they sign off and give their approval, that would be a by right use there that we could also sign off on.
but would that still leave the availability of that little piece that is on that inside that he could do the little office he's talking about?
Sure.
Because all your new development is gonna be on the lake side of the drive going in.
Here.
Opposite the pond, you cross the creek. The pond is on the current apartment side, you cross the creek and build another side.
No, the pond looks like it's below.
Just above.
Uh-huh,
Pond's down here.
okay.
Now, I mean, as I look at some of these, a lot of these are already currently a use that he could do in the A1. So like a lot of these activities, he already has the right to do.
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't disagree one bit.
I mean,
That's why I said I think it's an excellent lot for the purpose he wants to do. And we need to house them.
So can we move on?
no, we're
What do you
still
mean?
talking.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm inclined to support the project. I mean, first and foremost, my first thing I look at is what did the planning commission vote? And the planning commission voted to approve it with the proffers. That's the first thing. Every single meeting that we have, whether it's board supervisor or the school board, the subject of housing comes up, and the need for housing in this community. Any of the big concerns on this require special use permit. I'm looking at the proffers that have been offered, and like Jesse said, when you look at the things that are left, there's a lot of by right. And then another concern mentioned was increase in traffic. And whether this development was put on this site or a mile off of 151, those residents are still going to be going to and from on 151 to get home anyway. So I think it's a well thought out project, and I do understand the concerns about the SC1 potential, but he's using up the majority. At the end of the world, if a veterinary office shows up on the street there, I mean, on the front of the property, I certainly don't think so. And I wouldn't think someone that's gonna invest the kind of money that he's looking to invest in this piece of property is gonna put something on the front of it, some sort of business that would detract from those living units in the back. That would just be shooting himself in the foot. You know, who would want to rent if there was something ridiculous up front? Who would want to live there?
To further
That's
that,
where I am. I mean, I'm prepared to vote in
Yeah.
favor.
and to further his point, you have other regulators that are still going to participate in this. I mean, VDOT still will chime in if it's anything above and beyond what he's already done here, right? You're going to have other regulators such as Virginia Department of Health. You're going to have all sorts of different people who are going to participate in this. So him volunteering what he has made this already stricter than what it already has the ability today. I'm prepared to vote in favor of it.
Me too.
You've pretty much got the health department satisfied or can do it.
We can, I have not yet, we can.
Yeah, you can satisfy them.
We can.
And then the highway department it's pretty cut and dried. I mean, I don't have a problem.
All right. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion. I move that we approve rezoning number 437A1R1 to SE1, given to us by the, how do you want us to do that verbiage? With the proffers submitted from the planning commission and approved by the planning commission. Is that clean enough?
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion before we vote?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Schimpf. Thank you, Dylan. Next, we have transient occupancy tax, O2021-08. Mr. Carter?
place the draft ordinance up on the screen. The purpose of the public hearing is to consider the amendment of the transient occupancy tax provisions of Chapter 11, Taxation, Article 6, transient occupancy tax of the County Code of Ordinances. The first consideration is the revision of the current section 1140, which pertains to the enforcement regarding the Commissioner of Revenue's authority to issue summons against persons who fail to collect, report, or remit the required TOT tax. The second is the addition of section 11-43, which provides definitions for operators of entities subject to the TOT tax, and a definition of short-term rentals, which are periods of less than 30 days in exchange for a charge for the occupancy. In addition, it requires the Commissioner of Revenue to establish and maintain an annual short-term rental registry, including an annual fee for such registry, which is not currently provided in the draft ordinance. The ordinance as presented also established penalties of $500 for violations for failure to register, including prohibiting an operator from registering and offering property for short-term rental for failure to register due to multiple violations on more than 3 occasions. They could be prohibited from actually offering their property for short-term rental. The ordinance is O-2108, and it provides for the enactment of the proposed amendments and local authorities pursuant to state law.
So we're doing this to match Virginia code, correct? So this is kind of something we have to do anyway.
Ms. Heston mentioned this since Mr. Payne's not here, but we consulted with him before the ordinance was drafted. He actually drafted the ordinance, and I wish he was here. He recommended that the board make a favorable consideration of this. The one thing the board would need to decide, in addition to approve the ordinance, is the fee for the registration. My thought, I may suggest, is the businesses or their businesses, maybe the $30 fee.
Isn't that the
for
standard
other
people?
businesses.
So we could just match that. So would they have to have a business license and this license? Or just
Yeah, maybe both.
$60? Okay. That ain't bad. Great. Public hearing.
Okay, I don't have anyone signed up for the public hearing, but I will open the public hearing in the event there's someone who'd like to speak. Okay. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and open it to the board.
Sure. Okay, fine. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve ordinance 2021-08 with the $30 registration. Is that correct? Real quick for my correction. That's just a yearly thing, or is that a one-time?
Annual.
Annual. So just like a business license. Okay. Thank you. That is my motion.
It was in a taxable way.
Huh?
If you own it in a taxable way.
We can work on it.
It ain't many times that ever happened.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Rowley,
yes.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford.
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes. Okay. Next, we have ordinance 2021, amendment to the Code of Nelson County Taxation.
No sense in taking too long, Steve. Yeah.
So again, we put the draft ordinance up on the screen. It's much longer than the previous ordinance that was up on the screen. And what this provides, or would provide for, is the amendment of Chapter 11 Taxation of the Code of Nelson County to add Article 11 cigarette tax. The proposed ordinance will establish the administrative processes for the collection and distribution of the local cigarette tax, including setting a per pack tax rate not to exceed 40 cents per pack. The proposed ordinance establishes, as I said, the administrative processes for the local cigarette tax and vests authority for the administration, collection, distribution, and enforcement of the local tax to the Blue Ridge Cigarette Tax Board, which the Board of Supervisors here previously authorized the Nelson County's membership and through in that entity through the enactment on September 14th, Ordinance 2021-07, which approved the formation of the Regional Tax Board. The current members of the Regional Tax Board are Albemarle, Augusta, Fluvanna, Greene, Madison, Nelson, and Orange counties in the city of Charlottesville. Revenue estimates for Nelson County at a 40 cents per pack tax rate would result in annual revenues ranging from almost 132,000 to just over 158,000. The ordinance 02108 provides for the approval of this cigarette tax and the addition of Article 11 to Chapter 11 of the County Code and local authorities pursuant to state law. And I'll just add very briefly, this authority was approved by the General Assembly in 2020, and it allowed equal taxing authority, not just for the cigarette tax, but equalizing circumstances, the ability to set a higher rate for the transient occupancy tax, things like that. For 35 years, counties saw equal taxing authority that cities have, and the cigarette tax is one of those that was approved in 2020. Questions?
No.
Any questions?
The ordinance is already in place.
No.
No.
No, this is to consider the enactment of the ordinance. What's in place is the county's membership in the regional entity, which was approved in September. If the board decides not to enact the tax, then I would recommend that
We would withdraw our
you would
membership.
give notice to end the membership of regional entity, which requires 60 days notice, and then rescinding the previous ordinance.
I think they got it under control down on.
We got it.
Any questions for Mr. Carter? No? Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing for cigarette tax 2021-09. The first person signed up is David Landry.
I'll watch.
Okay, so I'm Dave Landry, 21 Black Walnut. Excuse me. So I'm opposed to the cigarette tax. I spoke about it before. This is just an increment to go ahead and do this further. But anyway, so why I'm going to tell today a little story. It's a true story, and it's going to be an analogy for why I'm opposed to it. It might not seem relevant, but you'll see what I'm getting at when I tell it. So when I was 18, my brother, my two older brothers and I shared a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. They were 19, the oldest brother was 20. So 18, 19, 20. None of us made a lot of money. We all worked full time, but when we moved into this apartment, we could have chosen to split the rent in even 3 ways. However, the bedrooms were 3 different sizes, and one of the bedrooms, the largest bedroom, had its own bathroom. So it wouldn't seem fair to split it 3 ways. So we came up with a way that basically, based on square footage, we paid proportionate share of the rent. Now, I was working as a grease monkey, barely making a little bit more than minimum wage. So I volunteered to take the smallest room, which was maybe 10 by 10, pretty small. But anyway, the others made their choices. And we were all happy with that. Now, as I got older and I became a homeowner, I looked at it and says, this is the way property taxes work. Seems fair, okay? People who want to spend more on their homes, bigger pieces of property, more amenities, pay higher portion of the property taxes to support the county or city, wherever you are. Now, thinking back, two of the brothers could have figured out, how can we get a little bit more money out of that third brother? My oldest brother and I, we were both confirmed rock and rollers, but the middle brother, he was into disco. Okay, he had the John Travolta 3-piece polyester suit. We could have chosen to say, you know what, we're gonna vote, take a majority vote and see if we can charge extra rent for anybody bringing in polyester 3-piece suits into the apartment. And he would have been overruled, and what else could he do but move out of the apartment? Now, we didn't do that. And you know, if we had, maybe they might have said, the other two might have gotten together and say, we're gonna charge more rent to people who have long hair, which was just me. It becomes a cycle where everybody's trying to get more money out of each other, and none of those things were related to the cost of the apartment. So this is an analogy for what I see. It's like an example of what the cigarette tax is about. The county doesn't have any extra, and correct me if I'm wrong, does the county spend any more money to run the county in any way relation to people smoking cigarettes? Sorry. So if there's no relationship between the people smoking cigarettes imposing extra costs on the county, why should the county charge them a tax? Finally, just because cities have this right and the people in the legislature decide to give the right to counties doesn't mean we should do it. When I was a kid, I often heard, just because everybody else is jumping off a bridge, should you do it? And that's the way I see it. Don't do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Purvis.
Bill.
My name is Philip Purvis. I'm from Shipman, Virginia, and I'm opposed to any tax, almost. I don't like paying taxes, and I guess most people in here would agree with that. My main concern is it's gonna add more work to the people selling it. They're gonna have to, their bookkeeping and keeping up with how many packs of cigarettes that they're gonna smoke, or that they're gonna sell. And the extra cost that it's gonna that will cost the county, because somebody's gotta manage this thing. And I understand it was $140,000 or $50,000 to get involved in this. Am I, is that close? What was it? It was something,
Way less.
what was it?
They thought that would be the tax it would bring.
Yeah, it would be
I think
revenue.
Wasn't it a fee to initially get all this stuff together that was,
Nothing like
it was
that.
fairly significant, wasn't it?
No.
I must be forgetting. I was at the meeting and I thought it was on up there. But anyway, somebody has got to manage this thing, which is gonna involve another employee and benefits and et cetera. And like I said, I don't smoke, so I don't have a dog in the race. But I just hate to see, I think government's gotten big enough and we certainly pay enough taxes. And I know that it may generate some income for the county, but I heard Tommy say the last meeting, the county's in really good shape and we're not hurting for money. So I'm just opposed to it. I'd like to see it tabled. Thanks.
Thank you. That was the last person I have signed up. Would anyone else like to speak at the public hearing? Okay, I will close the public hearing.
Just to clarify, it was $218,091 startup cost for the whole group, not just, for Nelson. That's the number you were looking for.
Yeah.
It was for the group, because that was a question that night, was that just for Nelson? I think someone who spoke said it was just for Nelson, and that was for the whole group.
Well, that should still amount to pretty good expense for us,
$12,000.
$12,000.
That's the startup fee.
So I'll start. Are we ready to talk?
Yeah, go ahead and talk.
I was just gonna say, when we voted last month, I thought until today, when we got correction from the, planning district, that we were voting to have a voice on a committee.
And we did.
And when I voted for that, I knew when I made that vote to participate, that I was gonna vote no on a tax, because I don't like taxes. You know, I'm the same way. So I just want to clarify, the reason I voted the way I did was because I thought, I don't like to give up my voice for any committee. If I have an opportunity to speak, I want to be able to speak. But that was in no way, but now I'm understanding that if we're not going to have a tax, we're going to step back from the committee. So that's all I have to say.
Good enough. All right, let's be quick.
Okay,
So,
I have a question. Mr. Carter, could you tell me what localities have already passed the cigarette tax?
all the ones around us.
Albemarle, Madison, and Augusta, and Charlottesville's been in place for many years.
And
The
green.
others is a process similar now to us, their meetings are this month.
Sure.
So they haven't set their rates yet?
Yes, they have. So Albemarle, and then they said it typically it's 40 cents.
I said Albemarle,
Yeah.
Madison, Charlottesville, and Augusta.
And
set their rates.
Yeah.
Charlottesville's, which is existing, is 55 cents. Madison and Albemarle, 40 cents was approved, and Augusta approved 15 cents.
I got it.
Well, I've told you what it caused me to do. I'll quit selling cigarettes.
Well, I think this is an exciting motion because now, I move that we, not approve the, tax rate as well as withdraw from the committee. If you could draft that, that'd be great. And of course, please make sure that's not a reflection of the TJPDC. It's just more of course, they have a great organization, but we're not interested in participating. We also will be the only county in the area that's not taxing cigarettes, so our gas stations should be thanking us.
Second.
No,
Yeah. Y'all wanna let Skip
Well,
close?
discussions after the motion and
Now you
second, so
can talk.
yes.
We have a
Once
motion.
Ernie's
We have a
opens it
motion and a
for
second.
discussion.
well, I don't have to change my mind. I voted against it the first time. And I voted against it because it's not because I hate taxes, because I love recreation, I love schools, I love roads, which I believe are paid for by taxes. But I don't like unfair taxes. And cigarette taxes, when you tax addiction that I once had, smoking cigarettes, you don't stop people from smoking. There is a cost of smoking, and I think I paid for that with the stroke I had. And so, I voted, because it fell most heavily on those people least able to pay it. Like, when you had the lowest paying job. And for instance, I love it that maybe Virginia will do away with the tax on food, which I think is an unfair tax. So I think, well, before we tax, we have to think we should think about what's fair.
All right, motion second, let's do that vote.
I would just like to say that there is a cost to smoking cigarettes,
Yeah.
which is not borne as directly by the people, well, that is borne more equitably across the spectrum, which are all the healthcare and health costs that rise because of that. And that's a problem. It's not a problem that this cigarette tax is going to solve or correct or alleviate in any way. But I'm prepared to not vote in favor of this tax and vote with the majority on this. But I do want to acknowledge the fact that we all pay the cost of the cigarette industry because of the accelerated healthcare across the board, and that's just something that we do need to be aware of, and maybe at another time, in another venue, we may have an opportunity to, do
We
something.
can always rejoin. We ain't holding any future board from joining, so.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
What, am I voting yes?
Voting yes is voting yes.
Yes is no.
Yes, no, okay.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if there's no more business, I move that we adjourn.
Is there any more business?
Second.
Okay, we have a second.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yeah.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Monte, you're the only press, so you gotta write this now. You're the only press in the room, so you have to write this.